Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Board of Mayor and Alderman work session for June 8, 2023 to order, please. As our opening comments, I would ask the board about the review of the work session minutes on May the 4th. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, those minutes will stand as written. Also in your package you have special call work session. This is pertaining to our budget of May the 8th. Do you see any corrections? Hearing none, those minutes will stand as written. Moving on to the May 20th special call work session minutes. This also concerns our budget. Are there any corrections on these minutes? Hearing none, those will stand as written. The review of the June 5th, 2023 special call work session minutes. This is also pertaining to the budget. Are there any corrections from the board? Hearing none, those will stand as written. Moving on to item number 2, this is for requested actions. We will be holding a public hearing for the 2024 Fayetteville City School budget. This will be June the 13th at 5 o'clock. This will be at the beginning of the meeting. Also, we will have a public hearing for the FY 2024 City of Fayetteville budget. This will be immediately following the Fayetteville City School public hearing. Moving on to item number 3. We're moving to our department reports, and first up is Director Plunkett.
Thank you, Mayor. William D. Jones, the curb and gutter contractor, should be here Monday, complete that portion of it. Then the paving will be done, and hopefully the project will be done by hopefully the end of the month. Garbage trucks. One of the garbage trucks was down with mechanical issues. We were working on it, and the other one went completely down. So we had to put it back out on the street. They're having to manually pack and retract the packer on it. The one that is completely down, we have a welder out there. He's having to rebuild the back end of it where the hook the tailgate. That's where we're at on those two. That's all I've got at this time.
Where are we at on our paving project?
Hopefully, they're trying to finish up the interstate right now, Danny, and hopefully they'll get started July on the paving.
Any other questions of Public Works? Thank you. Next up is our police department.
Good morning. I have 4 permit applications for us this meeting. First will be the Fayetteville United Methodist Church Vacation Bible School. They're requesting for their family night on June 9th to close Edison Street between Elk and Main. We can do that with cones and signage, so it won't be any kind of problem, and I've approved that for your consideration. Also, we have Waffle Ice Community Kickback, which will be July 1st at Stone Park. We will do this with a heavy patrol frequently by officers, so there shouldn't be any overtime for this event. Next, our Independence Day Festival on July 1st also. This will require overtime from some of our police department officers, and I've approved these for your consideration. The next will be Farm to Table. This is from the Lincoln County Young Farmers and Ranchers. This will be September 30th. And they want the inner parking lot of the courthouse from 5:30 in the afternoon till 8:30 in the afternoon. Again, we'll handle this with on-duty officers and the command staff, so there will be no need for overtime. And I have approved that for your consideration. Just some housekeeping. Presentations of awards at the next meeting. I've adopted an awards and commendations policy for our department to recognize our officers for the good things that they do, and would like to do this quarterly. At this next meeting, I have honorary police officer certificates for Bill Hopkins at the school superintendent, and for Ben Jennings, for who donated the fitness equipment for the police department's fitness room. Kobe, Jesse, and Dalton Henderson, I have meritorious service awards. Kobe for initiating our grants. Jesse for the outstanding job he's doing with the Community Watch, and Dalton Henderson, who started our Explorer program. And then I have 2 officers for certificate of commendation who talked a suicidal man off the bridge here the other day who was going to jump and try to kill himself. So I want to do those awards at the next meeting. Just housekeeping, we did have 1 resignation this reporting period. The last gentleman we hired, he hadn't been at the academy yet, but he's got a sick grandfather in another state, and he had to leave to go take care of him. He's moving out of state, so I understand that. Our pistols have all arrived. We're working on the ammunition swap now, and we should have that done here very soon and get these on the street, get the guys qualified with them. And finally, the SRO grant. The governor has created a grant to pay for school resource officers in every public school in the state. The grant hadn't dropped yet, so I can't give you specifics of it at this time, but it's supposed to drop this month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did notice that, and we spoke this in the Police and Fire Committee, that this permit for the First United Methodist Church, it will be this, before we meet.
It will be before the
on
next.
Tuesday, so I wanted to ask the board if this is okay. Do y'all have any questions? The chief has approved it. It does not require any overtime, but it will be before the Tuesday's board meeting. Are there any
I
questions?
don't have a problem at all.
I'm good. Everybody good?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to fire. Chief Kimbrough.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have 3 new employees that do the oath of office for them. It's Mackenzie Cross, Aaron Hurd, and Cole Collier. And then also on the apparatus updates, I did just get engine 2 back again. We had to send it back down to Brindley Mountain after the refurb, and they just had to tighten up some stuff. Just they wanted to go back over it after we'd run it for a few months, and so we've just got it back. Also, I have a VDM module and we're in the process of trying to find one and get ordered. That is basically one of the brains for Ladder 1. It controls the oil pressures, the speedometer, odometer, all that kind of stuff on the cluster, basically. So we're trying to find one. They think they'll be able to find one, but we're just trying to make sure we can locate one and get it ordered. So that's kind of the update on apparatus. Everything else seems to be running good. And that's my report, unless y'all have something for me.
Hey, Tony, is Cole paramedic too?
No.
Or he's not? Okay.
He will be going to EMR. He's actually doing some hazmat stuff actually today. If he finishes that bid up today, and they'll go to EMR. We're trying to get the EMR class set up maybe toward the end of July.
Okay.
I've got like 4 that need to go to it.
Cool.
So.
All right.
All right. Thank
And
you.
these 3 new firemen, this will get you up to what number?
That'd get me to 20, including myself and Davey.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay. Parks and Recs, Director Brian Carter.
Good morning. Our consultant's Hyde Engineering reports that the south end panel has arrived and the north end and main panel should be here soon. And this is for Don Davidson Park, the electrical portion of that. The transformer is now with Stewart Electric, and therefore work should resume soon, and the final 3 phases of this should be complete, hopefully by the end of the month.
So the transformer's here?
Yeah, it is with Stewart Electric. Yes, it is.
Okay, it's here.
So,
Allow me to correct Brian, and I failed to do this. Maureen called me Tuesday. They are here.
they are here. Okay,
Everything
great.
is here.
So everything's here to finish it up?
Everything is here to finish. So she called me Tuesday, and I failed to tell you. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Lee parking lot, we have gotten the drainage pipe and we're looking to coordinate with the street department, and hopefully we can get that done within the month of June. Our fireworks display will be on Saturday, July the 1st, and it'll be starting approximately at 8 p.m. or dusk just as soon as it gets dark. Spring sports, our baseball season has been completed, and we're We're glad and we want to thank everyone who has participated in our baseball and our soccer leagues this year. Our fishing rodeo is this Saturday. Registration will be at 7 a.m. and the fishing rodeo will start at 8 a.m. and commence at 12 p.m. And after that, adults will be able to fish. And we had a drop in our pool levels on May the 28th. And what we've come to find out is we had a power surge, caused our electricals to go out in our pump room, and it kicked on the backflow pump, and it dropped our levels. But we have gotten that completed and fixed, and haven't seen the water level drop since then.
It's good, it's not a crack or anything.
Just great, it's not a crack or a leak or anything like that.
Good.
All right.
Brian, we've had some talk in the past about basketball courts at Kiwanis, and Kiwanis was going to fund that. Where are we at on that?
Well, right now, what we're doing is we actually went back and rebudgeted that because the goals were they have to be a little bit expensive. So I put that in our new budget and
So
hopefully.
what did, I thought the Kiwanis Club was going to help fund that. Are they still going to help fund it?
Not at this time because they actually went over the price a little bit. The goals were going to cost a little bit more than what we thought they were. And we had to switch out on those. So
So it was just because of the cost?
yeah, they had a certain threshold at which they were at. I think it was like if I'm not mistaken, it was like $5,000. And those goals are going to cost $2,800 apiece.
So we're reestablishing a new relationship with the Kiwanis. Over the last few weeks, I have talked to the new president, so we're starting a new relationship with them.
But apparently what you're saying is that the funding they was going to put into it, we don't have that no more.
That is no longer available. No, sir.
Thank you.
One thing, Brian, is that parking lot, are y'all gonna, I guess I should ask Chief Pendergrass as well, are y'all gonna open, direct people to park in the parking lot during the 4th of July events?
I'm sorry, what was
To
that?
relieve traffic on the parkway, we're gonna put them into the parking lot?
Chief,
Are we allowed to use
At Don Davidson.
No, at Don Davidson, from,
Yeah.
the parking lot that they donated.
We discussed some of this yesterday. We're in the initial planning stage on this, but we're gonna park everywhere we can get permission to park.
Okay, but I guess what he's asking, Don Davidson's ready for people to park down there at this point, as soon as they get the
Oh,
electric.
yes, they can park at
Okay.
Don Davidson, yes.
Okay.
And to relieve the traffic on the overflow, that's what I was talking about,
Yeah.
where the soccer field's at.
Yeah, well, yes, they can.
Oh, the soccer.
You know, where they
field,
had
okay.
donated, where they were renting that property out for
Yes,
dollars.
that should be ready by that time, yes. That's where our aim is.
Good deal.
Any other questions? Planning and codes?
Thank you, Mayor. The only action item that we have is we need to recertify the zoning map. This is a housekeeping item. It was sent up to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by the Planning Commission. The last time that we recertified the map was the Planning Commission did in February of 2018, and then the board officially recertified it in March of 2018. We have had 5 rezonings since it was last certified. I will go over those. In February 2018, we rezoned 2 parcels out on Masters Way. This is the property that FPU is currently in the process of purchasing. It was rezoned from R1 to R3. September of 2021, 615 Maple Street West was rezoned from R2 to C3. December 2021, 516 Adams Street was rezoned from C3 to R3. April 2022, a vacant lot up on Rocky Knob was rezoned from C3 to R2. And most recently, April of 2023, the vacant lot on Green Street was rezoned from C3 to R1. Mr. Ernie Qualls, we checked with him, made sure he had the correct zoning labeled on the map, and everything is correct. We will officially, if approved, we will officially, Mayor, you will sign the zoning map along with the clerk. So this is just a formality we're required to do, and once we get approved, it will be housed on the city website.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, any questions? Go ahead.
Well, it's not a question, it's
Okay.
just, we brought this up in our meeting. This donut place down here is about ready to open back.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna fly a plane with that with a big banner around it. And another too, you mentioned, and I didn't know this was going on. You mentioned a place on the square is being renovated, and we have someone coming in.
Yes,
The
that was,
old Bob Ashby building, or the Ashby building, part of it.
it's a chiropractor, Dr. Porter. He received his certificate
Right.
of occupancy, and he will be on the north side of the square. And then on Main Avenue South, right down beside Standard Furniture, where Timeless Treasures was, it has went out, and Berry Reef Antiques is already gonna go in that building. And Jack has written the C of O for both of those.
Okay, so there was an antique place there, but they went out, another one came in, right?
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
right
I'm
behind them.
familiar with the one that was there before.
And Duncan officially opens next Tuesday, June 13th.
And Chris is not gonna tell you, but I'm gonna tell you, for the ones that was at the meeting, the chiropractor that's doing the building over here on the square, that told the planning department that he'd done buildings a lot of places, I guess, or whatever, but he'd never worked with anybody any better anywhere than this department was in helping get all that done over there. He was very, very pleased. You know, it's always good to hear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would like to mention that our community cleanup day that was originally scheduled for May the 20th and was rained out has been rescheduled for June the 17th. We will be meeting at the old hospital. The focus of this cleanup is the streets and right-of-ways in and around in the neighborhoods around the old hospital. Kent Quick is still going to do lunch that day, going to do sub sandwiches and chips. We will be meeting at 7 a.m., dispersing into teams. We've got fluorescent T-shirts, so we will be identified. Eddie has graciously given some of his team members to help us with the garbage pickup. And then, of course, this whole idea came from Miss Jill, which is our property maintenance inspector. Mr. Owens graciously let us put a committee together, and Tony and Tanya Knott graciously is sitting on that committee, and it's kind of being the out in the community and the churches and things. They've kind of been the spokespeople for our initiative. This is just the first one. We're going to focus in neighborhoods all around town, and in the months to come, we will be doing different areas. So we hope that everybody can come out and help us with that.
So have we coordinated with Public Works? Because I think I mentioned in one of our meetings, something came up about what you would be picking. There's certain things that Public Works just won't pick up. So you've coordinated that with them, and you've got all that worked out?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
There are certain things we're not gonna allow the volunteers to pick up too. We're gonna clean up, but be very careful that there's some things that they need to kind of let be.
Yeah, they need to know, because there's some things that Public Works will not pick up. You put it on the street, and it's just policy. Construction material, building material, that, whatever it is you get with it. But I guess you've already got with them coordinated.
Yes, sir. And we are not going into private property. We will
Right.
we will be in the right of ways and in the city property.
Okay.
Chrissy, also, we have the Mexican restaurant on the south side of the square.
Yes. They have their permit. They don't have their C of O yet, but that will be another new business that will be open. And I did want to mention we had 5 new residential C of Os. Well, actually 6. Joe Denby had 5 of them, and then Mr. Larry West had a house that was finished. And Mr. Denby, some of them was the duplexes and the triplexes that were approved. So we do have some new residential property that's on the market now too.
Is there not some type of tobacco place open on the other side of a cigar place or something?
It is.
Is it open? Okay.
Yes, that's on the south side, yes, sir,
Okay.
where the local restaurant used to be.
West
Where the restaurant was, where a local restaurant used to be.
West side.
West
Yeah.
side.
All right.
And then Magnolia Mall, that gentleman has got plans in the works. He's keeping it top secret. So we got something coming in the old Magnolia Mall, hopefully soon. And another building on the south side of the square sold, young vintage building sold. So we got prospects, and a lot of people are looking. And the 2 buildings on North Main that were the Chatterbox, you'll notice that their frontage has been painted white and it's cleaned up, and those are for sale on the market. So there's a lot of interest in those too. So things are starting to happen around the square and get these buildings filled.
And we don't know what yet, but we are getting very close to getting someone in the old Taco Bell building too. So that will be another building that will be cleaned up too.
Great, good job.
Thank you.
IT department?
Good morning. No action items, just a few things to report on. Worked with Brian with getting the iPad point of sale systems over at the community pool. Made a couple of upgrades. They've switched over to Square. They were using ShopKeep before. Replaced their card readers. They now can take chip cards now. Before it was only swipe. It's a separate reader. Before they would go into the charge port. In the past we'd have charging issues where it would stop charging even though it was plugged in. All that's been solved. Haven't had any issues since then. They have a phone over at the pool as well that I had to replace. So I put in a standard ShoreTel phone like we have in the offices for them to communicate with recreation office, call 911 if needed, anything like that. Got some, you might notice I've got the replacement iPad cases. If anyone needs one of these new gray iPad cases, just give me a shout and I'll get you set up. Also, I was tasked with finding some type of solution for timekeeping with the public comments that are coming up and stuff like that. So first I looked into gym clocks, huge displays with a remote control, kind of like a TV remote. That didn't satisfy the requirements. I kind of wanted both people up here, someone up here and someone here to both see the same display. There was purpose-built devices that were $7,000 to $1,000, which I thought was crazy for time. So I found this, and it operates through the iPad. It's a web app. What you can do, on one side you'll have a control. You can hit play, and then on your other side, you'll start hit play and count down on both sides. You can pause the time. You can change the time. Anything like that, configure it how you want. I think it might satisfy what we need. I was thinking just have one setting up here so someone can clearly see the time as they're talking. Other than that, that's our report.
Thank you. This is pertaining to the new state law to where we have to allow public comments. And so this will give the speaker, they'll know exactly how much time they have. So thank you so much.
What is the time limit on that? Is it about time?
We looked at two.
Yeah.
I thought it was 5.
2 minutes.
It's two, and actually that's coming under my report, so
Yeah.
John and I are going to talk about a recommendation in my report.
Right. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, thanks, Zach. Okay, moving on to finance.
Can we have that clock up here now?
We have all day and all night.
Are you awake?
I am for right now.
You know, I got an email at 4 minutes to midnight last night.
That's just in my text.
That's right. Okay. The first two items we have are budget amendments for the federal school system. I believe one of those is pertaining to a grant that they have that's coming in. And then the second is pertaining to an item for the summer program that they have. So those are just general budget amendments that they have that are coming through for approval. The third one is the annual budget and tax rate. However, I don't have those prepared because we haven't completed where we're going to end up on the budget. So as soon as we come up to what our finals will be, I'll have that presented for the next meeting. Number 4 is the City of Fayetteville Budget Amendment number 8. This one as well, unfortunately a little bit behind on that one. What that one will be, and I'll have it prepared for the next meeting as well, is where our final estimates for this year will be. So between now and the next one, once we finalize today's numbers for the next meeting as well, I'll calculate those and send those to the board as soon as I can get those calculated. Number 5, you have received a lot of information last night. Sorry it was so late, but I'll go over those. I was going to start with the top sheet and kind of go of how I derived to where it is. The bottom on your top sheet, this is the summary of the budget that we kind of have to get to. The bottom shows your net fund balance, and you'll see the bond fund, and then backing out the bond fund, backing out the grants, and then the bottom number of where we get to. Our goal from what we had from the last meeting was to have the general fund end up at a positive 60,000. Don't have the last numbers. I have it at 73,414. The parameters I was given was no raises were to exceed 20%, and then that there were some reductions from the top employees to be taken into consideration, and then to stay with a 35-cent tax increase. That's what I started with. However, I had to come down from the 20%, so the maximum that anyone would receive is 15%, with the exception of 3 firefighters because they were brand new. So since they're brand new, the calculation came out to 25. That's just the way they had to get on the scale. And then there was one other individual that had been discussed in the prior budget meetings, and that one that had been discussed and approved was over the 15% threshold. So with those exceptions, everyone else met these rules. So the parameters that I use, with the exception of those 4, is no one exceeded 15%. And then to also have to get to these numbers, the ones after the 15%, I took a 3% reduction of the prior proposed, and then everyone at least received 3%. So using those parameters is how I reached to this number. I also had to adjust the firefighter scale slightly from what was proposed. However, they did get a substantial, I guess, increase, but I did have to reduce them by 4% and then added 29 cents. Just sounds really odd, but it worked. Your firefighters starting out and your patrolmen starting out certified are equal. So that was the goal, is to have a patrolman and a firefighter certified equal. So that is in this as well. This does contain the capital that was requested and provided that number. That goal was met. You'll see your capital transfer equals to $488,211. That includes the number that was given or that we reached from the last meeting, so that number is included in this. There's also built in the pay scale certified and non-certified, so that's something new that we haven't had before. It was in there, but it was in your 2 columns. So in the pay scale that you'll see, I'll go over now, it just says patrolman certified, patrolman uncertified. So the pay scale looks a little different.
Jimmy, question on the capital 488, that includes where we are right now plus what's projected, right?
That included what we needed, what we had prior in the budget, plus what we ended up with from the last meeting. And I don't have that particular number with me. I think it ended up like 248,000 something. It started at 260, but when we reduced that 195,000 or whatever it was, it went to 248 something.
Correct.
So that 248 is included in this 488 to 11.
Okay.
So that capital number that I was given at the last meeting is included in this transfer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll kind of go over. You have your summary sheet. You have your statement of revenues. The statement of revenues, your top number has the 35-cent increase in that. Now, one thing I will say is that includes the 35 cents. However, I kept the same projection at the 94% revenue. So, we've talked about that very early on, that I didn't budget 100% revenue. So I kept that the same. So that's your revenue, that's the only change. The summary of expenditures, this has been updated for all departments. So when I updated all of the payroll, all of these numbers changed. And then you can look towards the bottom where it says operating transfer to capital. There's your 488 to 11. That includes that $248,000 new transfer. So when you look at your budget books compared to this sheet, that's where you'll see that difference. Is everybody good? Okay. So the next is what you'll have is your fire pay, your fire revised pay scale. So if you look where it says firefighter 1, you'll see a $12.77. That began with $13, this sheet. So that's where I had to reduce it by the 4% and then added. So that's what gives us the equal. You'll see that if they start out at $12.77, they have the ability to gain $1.30 in certifications. So being certified, they end up at $39,885.72. That's equal to a certified patrolman. Okay. And then this schedule blows through the whole scale, with the exception of the assistant chief and the chief. Those are based off of what they're kind of outside, so they don't go through this whole scale. They're salary scales, but I added them to the bottom anyway. And then the next sheet you'll have is the pay scale. So this pay scale is per position. So each position has a scale. So if you're a patrolman, you would look at you'd go find the department and you'd find patrolman. What level are you on? So if you were a level 7, you're still a level 7. It's that your number changed. Does that make sense to everybody? So I know it looks a little different, but it's kind of the same information. And then you'll see certified and non-certified. So the only ones that are outside this scale is the firemen, because they have so many different scenarios that I can't put it on a sheet. And then the last one that you have is where all the individuals are proposed currently. Now this sheet, I do request that I have a little bit additional time between now and the next one to scrub it some more, just to make sure that there's no issues with it. Because when I pulled it together, I just want to go double scrub it. But this is what I ended up with last night, so I want to make sure and go line by line, employee by employee. If there are any things and any adjustments that I need to make, I will send that out to the board. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I know it's a lot of information.
Back to the fire.
Yes, sir.
The reason some of these numbers is down from what we kind of heard to begin with is that we dropped the tax
We did, we dropped it
We
10
went from
cents
45 to
to 35.
35, so that had an effect across the board on pretty well everything.
Yes, sir.
But I will say this now, I have communicated with the fire chief through this because this is something I kind of brought up. And I think he's pretty well satisfied this is a big step, right?
Correct.
I don't know if we're getting there or not, but it's a big step.
Correct.
I wouldn't necessarily say that we're going to rebuild Rome in one day per se, but, and if I'm not mistaken, like the actual annual starting salary of the fire departments went up, right?
Yes, yes, it has.
Quite a bit. What, $7,000 or something a year?
Over 7.
Over 7?
Over 7.
So that needs to be kept in mind.
Right.
That's, because it's easy to get these hours all confused up and all of that, but I think one thing to keep in mind is to get them started in a whole lot better direction. What I'm seeing here is they're starting salaries bumped up on the kind of with where the police is close. And I can see what you've done. You took a certified police officer, you took a certified fire department person, and you compared them, and you got within $6.50 for
Yes,
a
sir.
whole year.
For an annual.
Yeah, so I don't see how you could done no better with what you had to work with. So, that being said, I'm not going to rant about fire department no more. I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I think you've done an amazing job.
thank you.
Because you've had to redo this, what, about 3 or 4 times?
Or more. 15.
And you're still redoing it 4 minutes till midnight last night, because that's when that email went out. So, appreciate you and everybody else that worked on it, the whole team. Thank you.
The very last item, I'll sit down now because I don't have anything else. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Jamie.
All right, moving on to administration, Mr. Arthur.
Good morning, and again, I do want to commend Jamie, because she was up all night last night, as well as Pam, just making sure everything was in order, so the team did not sleep much last night, and I do appreciate them for all of their efforts.
And I think you said you was going to let them off at noon today.
Jamie refuses. Matter of fact, I'm gonna say this for the record.
Okay.
Both of them were supposed to be off tomorrow, and they decided not to be off. So they dedicated. And thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
But to start my report, I'm going to ask the first item with the new ordinance that is coming down from the state of Tennessee. I'm going to ask John Hill, since he is the author of most of the ordinance. So will he please explain some of the highlights?
The state General Assembly's passed legislation in this term to provide for having public comments at any meeting where in particular our board would be voting on something. So I don't think this is going to apply to our committee meetings or work session necessarily, but it will affect our main second Tuesday of the month meeting. We are now going to, if this is approved by the board, we'll be having a public comment section at every main board meeting every month. So we've met, Kevin, Donna, Pam, I think Jamie was involved in the process too. We've had a couple meetings to kind of hash this out and put together a proposal that the board has in front of it. As the legislation does allow us to place some restrictions, just keep some degree of order in our meetings. So we've tried to work with the restrictions that the state allows us to put in place in putting this together. So basically what we're proposing is a public comment section of the meeting that would be, I think, before the reports every month. I think we adopt the agenda and then probably go into the public comment section. We were kind of looking at keeping that section of the meeting under 30 minutes. We're allowed to impose restrictions on the length of each person's comments and the number of commenters every month. So we thought to kind of get into that process, we would set it at a 2-minute limit and a limit of 10 speakers at each meeting, to try to hit that mark. Anyone interested in speaking will be notifying the city office on either Monday or Tuesday, I think up to
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock on Tuesday. And I will say that anyone attempting to speak has to be speaking on an issue that is on the agenda for action. It's not something you can just come in and speak on anything. It has to be an actionable item on the agenda for that particular meeting. So anyone interested in speaking would have to notify the city office of what agenda item they're interested in speaking on. If we have fewer than 10 requests, all of those will be allowed to speak. If we have more than 10, the legislation encourages us to give as wide a viewpoints as, I think as many items on the agenda as possible. So in order to kind of meet that objective, Kevin's going to have some discretion to try to, if we have more than 10 requests, to make sure we have as many viewpoints and as many issues being commented on as possible. Before I guess we were even aware of this legislation being passed, we'd already been in discussion about a request to appear before the board to make comments. So while we were kind of doing this, I included another section on what would be a process if someone wants to appear before the board on an issue that's not an actionable item, not germane to something on the agenda. And we basically have set up a proposed system where somebody would come to Kevin. Kevin, if it's an issue that Kevin thinks he can do something to address, somebody's got a complaint about the garbage pickup or something. It may just be, rather than having them appear before the board, it may be something that Kevin can take some action, or Kevin and department heads or whatever. So Kevin's going to, in that situation, Kevin would have some discretion to try to address the person's complaint himself or with other city employees. And if that doesn't work, or if Kevin thinks that's not appropriate, rather than coming to the main, I guess it actually would be the work session ultimately. What Kevin would do would be to assign them to a committee meeting, whatever was most appropriate for the issue being raised, and then that committee again would have some discretion to try to take some kind of action to resolve whatever the issue is before that committee could decide, it's appropriate to send that person on to the work session for an issue that's not an agenda item. So that's basically what we have put together in this proposed ordinance. Any questions about that, or anything you like or don't like in it?
So, Kevin, are you going to, you or Mr. Hill, address the change of the committee meeting times or all of our meetings due to the 48-hour notice?
Yes, I would do that at this time, but due to Charter 213, we must post notice 48 hours, post agendas 48 hours prior to the meetings. So in that light, we are now proposing that committee meetings be a week prior, the Thursday prior to work session. So going ahead, it would be a week prior to this meeting. And we were trying to do all of the committee meetings, with the exception of the finance committee, on that Thursday. I think all the committees now know the time of the meetings. Public Works will be at 8. Planning and IT would be at 8:45. I think we have a 3:30 Parks and Recreation and a 4:15 Police and Fire. I may have had the last two It may be the other way around. But finance then will meet on Monday morning. I think we decided at 7:30. And work session and the board meetings will continue as they are now.
And will we put something out to notify the public?
We will. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of the year, Pam had put out in the public, in the paper, that the meetings will be held at certain times and certain days. So we do have to go back and amend that, once we get started with this.
Kevin, backing up a little bit on this, the other one we talked about. So, and I don't have a problem with it. So if people comes and speaks about certain issues they have, they can come to a committee meeting maybe, or maybe it's a work session. Can it come to the main board meeting?
Well, in order to be a speaker at the main board meeting under this new state legislation, it would have to be an item that's on the agenda for action.
I understand that, okay. So that's what you're talking about, the main board meeting.
So certainly, if somebody came to if somebody brought an issue forward that's not on an agenda, and they wound up at a committee meeting or a work session, certainly if the board wanted to take action on that issue and put it on an agenda, sure, they can come to the main meeting then, because it would be an agenda item at that point.
So typically with a public hearing, typically what we as a board do, what I try to do anyway, is we just kind of listen to the people. We don't have a lot of interaction in a public hearing, Now, in these type of issues, so if they come and say they got complaints about whatever, they want to issue a complaint about the street or any number of things it could be, are we going to have interaction back and forth to the main board meeting with the people that's speaking, or we're just going to kind of hear them and then move on and make a decision? Or are we going to be able, or should we interact with them? That's what I'm saying.
If let's say somebody's bringing forward a complaint that's
Right.
not an agenda item, and it's gone through Kevin's process of he's attempted to resolve it unsuccessfully, and then it goes into a committee meeting at that point. I think the committee's just going to have to do that on a case-by-case basis. If it's it may be something that the committee just wants to let the person hear his or her grievance and move on, but it may be a situation where it's appropriate to kind of have some back and forth about how to solve a particular complaint.
Even in a Board of Man Alderman meeting, we could be in that situation where we could have interaction. Are we going to be a listening? Are we going to be under this law, or are we going to be a listening board, or are we going to be able to interact with these folks that has a problem?
I guess we're all going to have to experience this a little bit to see how it works out. But in my vision, the speakers on the main meetings who have comments on an agenda item, I envision that just being more like the public comments, or public hearings that we have, where they'll just state their say, and it won't really be a back and forth situation.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
And my recommendation is that if someone comes to speak, that we'll give them an official reply. If they come as an official speaker, an official reply within 48 hours, because it's going to be times that someone want to come and speak. There may be a legal situation, or it could even be a financial impact. So I would prefer that we just give if you come and speak and you're an official speaker, 48 hours, we will have an official response to you in writing some type of way.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say that this is more of a public comment section. It's not a public hearing session. And they only have 2 minutes, and we have a certain amount of time. I think we've allotted 30 minutes in that meeting. Is that correct, Johnny?
That was kind of our goal, was to keep it down to about 30 minutes, and that's why we set the number of speakers and the time limit where we did, just calculating in that there will be some extra time needed just to move speakers back and forth and things of that nature.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And in that way, if we interact or, offer our time, we're taking their time up. So we're more, I think, a listening board during the public comment section of the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting.
I think that's how I envision it, yes.
Okay, sorry.
Now, that's kind of where I just want to be sure, because it could be that someone would come with something that we got a lot of knowledge of, and we could very well, in a committee meeting, I think would interact anyway. We do already in committee meetings. So if the process went through the committee meetings before it ever got to the Board of Mayor and Alderman, of course, a lot of that's going to be resolved, so.
And I guess also, Vice Mayor, I would point out that if it's an agenda item,
Right.
eventually we're going to get to it on the agenda.
Right.
There'll be discussion once it's the topic before the board on the agenda.
There'll be a discussion within the board
Discussion
on the agenda
with the
item.
board. So
But-
if you had a comment to make relative to a comment
Right.
that one of the earlier speakers made, I think you certainly have that opportunity.
That's kind of what I want to know. Because I want to know, okay, with this new law or whatever, are we going to be completely silenced? Or is there cases to where we would need to interact? So I think that would probably be good to know. Okay. But a lot of the things that come through will be resolved in committee meetings more than likely.
Correct. It should.
Quite a few of them will. I mean, we deal with this already in committee meetings sometimes. We do.
And I think we've had some gray area in the past. We've had people just show up at our work session, for instance, and want to speak, or show up at the main meetings and want to speak about issues that aren't on the agenda at all. And we've the second part of this basically gives us a framework to
But that might clarify some of that, because it kind of looks bad when you don't let them speak. But on the other hand, there's other issues involved in all this. So that should solve a lot of that type of issue. Okay. All right, well.
And if someone just calls like during the month, it's not right before a board meeting or whatever, they just call in any time of the month and they want to complain about the garbage, this just kind of sets a procedure of how we handle things, and it won't it shouldn't vary from person to person, because there is a procedure. They would go through Kevin would address the problem or look at the problem and try to resolve it with the person, or like we said, Mr. Hill, you said, then they would go to be directed to a committee or a department and let that person handle it. Then it would move its steps up, maybe to a work session. Hopefully we can address it and take care of it before it gets to the work session. And then the board may send it on to be an action item. And so I think this way we at least have a policy, we have a procedure of how we're going to handle this, and the public will better understand this is our process. So I appreciate you working on this and getting this cleaned up for a better.
And I think we all recognize, we may need to go through a few meetings and just see how this works, and this may need some tweaks. I haven't had the benefit of knowing how anybody else is doing this, so we may see somebody else's policy, in the coming months that it's like, hey, we like that, how they're doing something in Shelbyville or something that we might want to incorporate into our policy going forward.
And this policy will not go into effect until July 1. So it will be during the July meeting process. But we have a budget hearing, and that's kind of different. So Kevin and Pam and I are going to discuss how that needs to be handled on Tuesday night, because we do have a public hearing, so it's a little bit different for that. So we'll be addressing that. Director Plunkett, you have a question?
Are they going to be allowed, are they going to address you all? Are they going to be able to address us during that meeting?
Which meeting?
When they come up for their public comment?
For their comment, no. It's just, they have 2 minutes to say whatever they want to say. They have 2 minutes. And they do, if they address somebody, which that's not going to happen, but if they do, they're wasting their 2 minutes, because you would then reply and your 2 minutes are gone. So it's just a state what you have to say, and Then once it comes to the board, it's on the agenda. Once that item comes up, if Danny or another alderman wanted to say, Ms. Jones, we take into consideration what you addressed, and the board would address it at that time. They would not be addressing, to my knowledge, right?
That's correct, and to emphasize what Attorney Hill mentioned, it's supposed to be an agenda item, so it's supposed to be relevant to the agenda.
It has to be.
It has to be, yeah, according to the law.
The pre-approve, you know, if we want to call it pre-approval, the signing up before the meeting, I mean, that's to ensure that it's actually an agenda item that the board anticipates taking action on, that the person be allowed to speak, so.
Well, I'm glad that Mr. Plunkett asked that question. Is there a way we can make it clear that if they do come and speak and they're allowed to speak, that they're only addressing us and not the employees, I guess?
We can, as a matter of fact, yesterday or the day before yesterday, John and Pam and I, we looked at what Birmingham had put together, and it specified the caution you will have if you do something beyond what is given you, allowed to you. So yes, we can.
But I'm gathering some of this.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But what Eddie was saying is, I'm sure this is going to be tried to straighten out during our workshop sessions. If it's not worked out there, then it's going to move on, correct? I'm gathering during our monthly workshop sessions, committee meetings. I think we're going to try to work it out in a committee meeting before it goes further.
So
I tell you from
that's
past history, we had this years ago, public comment, and the way you're setting it up is a whole lot better, but we caught the blind.
We have to just cut it off if it goes there real quick, because we don't want them attacking it.
Yeah.
That's what happened the last time.
Right.
Well, I remember that. It was at the end of it was at the end when it was. It wasn't the beginning, it was the end. It wasn't always on. It didn't have anything to do with the agenda, it's just everything, whatever. So I guess too is probably safety is put in place that you don't have someone to come up here saying and attack an individual on the board, right? Just like on social media, they get out and put out lies and trash talk, they're not going to be able to do it and stand here in front of us, right?
Again, to come to our main meetings, it has to be an agenda item that the board's going to be taking action on. There's a weeding out process before the meeting. So, you know, if somebody says, I don't like the way a particular department's handling some part of its job, if that's not an agenda item, that person's not going to be coming to the main meeting to hear that grievance.
So the law is made, it sounds like the law is written to where individuals cannot abuse it to attack certain individuals. It's going to be very restrictive.
I think we're going to have to be vigilant if somebody tells us, oh, I'm here to talk about the Independence Day Festival, and,
right.
But then they get up and they launch an attack against.
Okay.
With that being said, Mr. Hill, will we have the authority to, like I said, we can have that person removed, and we can, if you know, like Mr. Bryant said, they start like coming at us about something that, can we say, okay, you're done. Can somebody please escort this person? You know, something like that.
And hopefully we're not going to have to get
hopefully not
too heavy-handed with that. But you know, obviously the mayor will be running the meeting,
okay.
So if somebody's going afield of what they've indicated they're interested in speaking about. I mean, I think the mayor would first try to redirect the person
And maybe what, I think the way that we had discussed it too, like Zach showed the clock, they have the 2-minute clock looking at them. The 2-minute clock is up here for me. You speak. It has to be related to the item on the agenda. We do not respond. They just speak. But I think once the public comment section begins, I could then say, you have 2 minutes. Everyone, please be timely. This is not a time to interact with the board. Just kind of give a few things at the very beginning so they understand. This is not to attack anyone. No one will be addressing you. It's your 2 minutes. Or responding to you, this is your 2 minutes. So I think maybe that will settle some things too.
And their 2 minutes starts when they hit that podium. Because if we have somebody come over with props or something, before, as they come up to walking up here and say they want to show you pictures?
When they start.
That's
Yeah,
it.
when they start.
The mirror should say your time starts now.
Yeah.
And then
And the law does state, like if there's several items on the agenda, say we have budget on the agenda and some speaker wanted to address that. If we have chickens on the agenda, someone wants to address that. If we have speeding on the agenda, the law does say, as people sign up to speak, kind of have a representation. If someone wants to speak on all of those, don't have it all on speeding. If someone else wants to talk about chickens, they may move up the line. So that way we cover all subjects. So that's in the law.
And it encourages, pros and cons of any particular issue when that's possible.
Yeah, because someone may speak pro on chickens and so it wants you to, give everybody an opportunity on their sides or their opinions to speak as much as we can, because it is a limited time.
And we're willing to do a public release, allow the board to look at it before we do it, but just what all the guidelines will be within.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Owens, you want to finish your report?
Yes, ma'am. And officially, good morning, everyone. But I also want to report for information. We did receive, and I think we got a little wrong, the list is it's a TSMP, I think, grant. But we did receive the traffic signal modernization grant, which will allow us to do 4 traffic signals that will meet our ADA requirement. This was a grant that we found out late in the year and were able to apply. It does not require any matching, so it will do a little coordination between LPU and the city to install, but we did receive that grant, and beginning as of this week to receive a little more information about it, so it will help us with some obsolete traffic signals we have around. We were hoping for many more, but we were able to get 4 within this, so it would be a big improvement, better technology, so wanted to report that to the board. Number 2, the next one is going to be the sidewalk, downtown sidewalk project. Last month, y'all gave permission, approved Croy to be our bid professional to help us out. We actually, the mayor and I met with Croy yesterday. They have gotten the bid, everything together and ready to release. We had a few little just corrections they needed to make, and Houston said they should be able to do that this week with the ability to go live next week. I think we asked in the planning commission how long of a process it should be to be a process. Houston estimated about a 3-week bid process, and then at that time the selected bidder can come back to the board to award them to start the work. So we got a good detail, maybe a 90-minute meeting yesterday about all the things that need to happen from this point on, so we'll continue to work on that.
So are we, I'm assuming we've coordinated with FPU.
We have.
Because there is utilities on those sidewalks.
We have. As a matter of fact, even prior to that, maybe a few weeks ago, we sat down with FPU, and we talked about that again yesterday, but we sat down with FPU, Eddie and I and Representative Croy one morning, and we went through a lot of this stuff with the utilities down. And it's going to be an ongoing coordination, because once they said, once we get down there, we're not sure what we're going to find, but they are very much in the loop.
And there's private utilities on that sidewalk.
Yes.
And that's the catch right there.
Yes. Yes. But that's going to be one we're going to be really looking at, and even Houston says that the leadership within this is going to have to talk very regular about what we're going through and the different sidings, and so it's going to be a process. We talked about doing the different sides and how to best coordinate all of that. Going and talking with the merchants. He gave us some guidance about when the best time is to talk with the merchants prior to the construction. Pre-construction, So we went through a good timeline for the next, at least 90 days, how things should fall. And he will be to the committee as well.
Those merchants needs to be, they need to have some kind of an idea.
They do, yeah.
You get in there and you got a private sewer line
Yeah.
under that sidewalk. You got a private water service under that sidewalk. So, you know, they don't need to have any big surprises.
I don't know.
Hopefully that's all that's gonna work out. You might have to talk to them like individually, you know. We're gonna need to anyway, because some's apprehensive about window breakage and, you know, and people won't be able to get into their businesses and, you know, it's the livelihood, but that's things that, to get this done, that's things we gotta do. We don't have any choice, but,
Yes, sir.
so, the better coordination we get with the public, the better.
Yes, sir. I totally agree. And fortunately, prior to retirement from Birmingham, we did the Birmingham Rapid Transit, and we faced certain things and talking to businesses, so I understand what you're saying. You know, they got to be constantly communicated with and heard because, yeah, construction is hard.
And we did discuss with Houston how the process will go as far as communication. The contact, Kevin will be in charge of the city contact. Kevin will speak to Croy. Croy will speak to the contractor.
Correct.
There's not, you don't skip the middleman. And also with the merchants, it would go, the merchants would speak to the city, then the city speaks to Croy, whatever their concern is. And then Kevin has a small group that will meet with the merchants, hold their hands through the process. We do not want the merchant going to the contractor, because there is no room for them to give any directions of how it should be or when it should be. So that's going to be expressed to the merchants. Come to us, let us handle it. The contractor is not going to know what you're talking about, and they're not allowed to speak to you. So there's a process of that. So I think that will help clear matters too.
We spent probably in the meeting, just the process, yesterday morning, we spent probably about half the time talking about how do we keep this communication channel, because that's going to be the key to the success of this project. We got to let everybody know. I mean, when you're doing construction, and as you said, Vice Mayor, inconvenience to the merchant is one thing when you talk about it, but when you experience it, it's a whole nother level.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, also, if we go to the next item, we have the 2023 multimodal grant, and we have applied for this grant, and we want to apply again. Eddie just reminded me that we do have a meeting this morning with the Rural Planning Organization, which this will be discussed. But last week, we were given the authority to apply if we desire to do so. We want to apply for this grant this year, and since we're talking about sidewalks, we want to talk about some of the adjacent sidewalks on the state, on college streets, to see whether we can get those done, since we already have a project in existence. So we want to continue going forward with this. The grant application is July 18th. So we're talking and gathering information to apply for this grant.
Yeah, we've done this before several times.
We have.
And this is a 90-10.
Yes, it is. It's a
90-10.
90-10. Correct.
So if we were to get it, the city would have to come up with $125,000.
That's absolutely correct. We would have to
as a match.
125 in our match. Jamie and I did have a chance to talk a little bit about this following I think we were in Public Works Committee, but we did talk a little bit about how we would do this. We would not know whether we are awarded if we do apply until probably November, December. So we got a few months to prepare.
Right.
So we started looking at what coins we have to try to put together for this project, and we'll come back with a recommendation.
Well, it's time that we get it. We might not, but I don't know how many times we apply. More than one, I can tell you that. And we keep getting pushed back on the back burner. Hopefully, y'all are speaking with Mr. Marsh.
We started speaking with Mr. Marsh, yes, sir.
Yeah, I would hope that Mr. Marsh would be able to help us on this. And I guess there's some more representatives we've got too that.
We do. I have not reached out to goodness, our state representative who's been in town a couple of times, but I do plan to reach out to see whether they.
Do you know who that is?
It's not her name.
Is it Doggett or something like that? Doggett or?
That's Clay Doggett.
There's Clay, but it's another, oh my goodness.
Janice Bowling.
Bowling. That's it.
Okay. Well, anybody you talk to that, they need to be reminded, I don't know if it'll help you or not, but it won't hurt, that we've tried this for quite a while.
Yeah,
They've been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back.
absolutely. We're gonna try everybody who is connected with.
Because there'll never be a more perfect time than right now, since
Yeah.
we're already
We're
working
doing
on sidewalks.
Agreed.
Be perfect. And of course, like you say now, all of that, if we got it, all that work has got to be done on state roads. You can't get off on side streets. All state.
And everything we're looking is connected with college, so
Right.
it would be adjacent to the work we're doing on the square.
Yeah.
And also, under my report, I do want to do a update on animal control. I see Chairman, the Humane Society Chairman is here today, as well as I'm meeting with the new director of the Humane Society. But the county is in the city. We are looking at going to do a bid for proposal. We have been in a month-to-month situation since October. We would like to, we're looking at going sometime in July and the bid, and anybody can apply, including our current vendor, for services. We're looking at all the services we will need, but we're hopeful that we can do and complete a bid and have our permanent provider in place by October 1st.
So the bid would consist of humane control and animal control, which is a separate. Animal control and humane control is really separate.
Yes.
So you're looking at still a combined.
We're looking at the animal control, where if a Humane Society applies, they apply, but their services will be to do the animal control based on the county as well as the city's funding. So it's a difference. As a matter of fact, if you look at Huntsville has a Humane Society, but they also have animal control, and they're separate needs. So even if the Humane Society apply, they would be applied to do the animal control services.
Still be together.
Yeah, they can apply. I mean, yes, they can apply. So in Birmingham, for example, the one I did, we had, prior to we corrected, we had a totally independent person running animal control. The Humane Society of the Greater Birmingham Humane Society, they ended up winning the bid, and they came in to do that, but they're totally different organizations, different functions. So our bid is only going to have animal control, but the Humane Society can apply for it.
Well, let me ask you, when they bid, the winner of the bid, does the building go to the winner of the bid? I guess is what I'm wondering.
So the bid has not been completed, but more likely that's the thinking, that they will operate out of that building.
Operate out of that building that's jointly owned between us and the county. Okay.
I know the county had in our discussions, the county has had, they had proposed building a new building, but we were clear that we didn't have the funding to build a new building.
They don't either.
They don't either, so. But right now, it's proposed that they would be operating out of that building.
Kevin, I had spoke to you the other day. In the meantime, when all this is going on in the bidding process, and I know we put a Band-Aid on our vehicle, and I have talked to a representative of the Animal Society. Are we still in a discussion about giving them a vehicle in the meantime, and they'll give it back to us if they don't win the bid? Because they're direly in need of a vehicle. We had discussed 2 months ago.
We have, and we discussed this week. So we actually have a vehicle available, but that would be a board decision about whether we would allow that. After we talked, Alderman Roger, I talked to Bill Newman about it, and they also had proposed a vehicle, and he was going back to check to see, where that was as well. But that probably will be part of the bid as well, too.
Is there any way possible we can move that over just to our next, or to our next meetings where we can vote on that, or?
Yes, I plan to have something, I've been working on something that
Okay.
still need to be tweaked some. But, yeah, I would like for you all to look at least the bid. As a matter of fact, even if you have some inputs right now, that you want something with services, let me know. But I've gotten about 15 points for us to look at, and I do want you all to look at it. That's why I wanted to talk to y'all now, and hopefully, it'd probably be about a 4 to 5 week process, but I would like for you all to look at it before we officially adopt. And as I said, the county is starting to discuss it in their meetings this week, so I also wanted to talk with y'all before they started.
I think
And this would be next month. too,
Right.
It'd be
not
next month.
Tuesday, it'd be
Okay.
next
It'd be
month.
next-
But I think what he was asking, can we move forward on the vehicle? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the vehicle.
I'm talking about the
Yeah.
vehicle sitting downstairs
The
in the garage.
vehicle is what I was talking about, like moving that over so we can just go ahead and get them that until they, if they don't get it, then they can give it back like Roger said.
That's what I'm saying. I think they need a vehicle now, and that's what I was wanting to make forward, to see if we can, what do you think about giving that vehicle to them that's sitting in the basement, that the
Do
vehicle
we
they
have
have
a
now?
vehicle already?
We have a vehicle here just sitting downstairs.
We have a vehicle that was used by the school board. It's a vehicle,
That van? Okay.
And I'm just what I'm saying, it's sitting there, and I don't know why they'll give it back, we're not gonna give it to them. I think they'll take responsibility for the insurance stuff. I'm just saying that if they don't win the bid, I think they're proposing to give it back to us.
But do they take the van as is, or do they have to, like, outfit it for animal control?
and that's what's my little hesitation. I'm actually meeting with Tracy tomorrow, the new director, and I would probably want to see what would be needed to do to the van a little bit.
Okay, because I would think it would have to be different than just the original.
Is that van that's the oldest van we've got? Right.
Well, Tanya, they were using their cars as well, so it can't be no different.
So, I mean, I've seen one, a nice vehicle going around. So is that out of commission? I just saw it like 2 days ago.
Is that the one that we put the Band-Aid on? Is that what you're talking about? I don't.
No, this one's a
know.
nice, says Humane Society. It's brand new. And, I mean, it looks new to me. So, I mean, they have that vehicle.
I mean, Cindy's out there, she could answer that for us. I don't know, is that a new vehicle that was?
That's paid for by Humane Society funds, and I think it's a 2018. It's a transit van, which is not really good for picking up animals on the street or what we've been using it for.
Okay, well, I'm not sure the one we have in the basement would be any better for people. I don't know. I mean, I really don't
The
know.
transit van is not made to do, we transport animals to spay neuter clinics and that sort of thing.
Cool.
And it's a tall van, it's not meant for that purpose, and it was paid for by a donation from an individual.
They're needing a vehicle to pick up animals. They're not, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all needing it for animals to pick around the city or the county when you get a call.
Correct.
That's what they're needing it for.
So that truck that we had, is it not running now, they had it?
So Eddie has done a real big assessment to that truck. It can be bandaged some, but it had sat there. You want to address any of that truck, Eddie?
The rats leave the wire harnesses out of it, and we got it patched up, but it may run for 10 years and it may run for 10 minutes.
And it may not start one day, it may start the next. And that's what I think they're having issues
The
with.
rats has got in the wire harness and eat them up.
It's got a special bed on it, right?
Yes, sir.
Bed's still good.
Yes, sir. As far as I know, I didn't look at the bed.
Well, I don't think a rat's to hurt the bed.
No.
Like it had to be transferred over to a truck, you know.
So was it not being used, just one of the rats got in there? Or,
From what we're told, it's been sitting for 2 years, something.
Off and on, yeah. It's out, I drove this out one California.
That was what model is that? 15? 2015? What?
9.
9?
Yes.
Well, I remember when we got it, years it got away from me, but I remember when, because the city bought that, we didn't have any help with that at all. Nobody helped us buy that, we bought,
that. We put the bed on it.
Right.
It's donated to.
right, the county didn't help with that, we bought that because it was desperate. I remember you had a truck that couldn't keep going, and finally Big Mountain Me said, let's just buy one, because we give up on this, so I guess it's seen better days. Okay.
Well, if the board wishes, I can have Eddie examine the vehicle and ask John to look at the legalities as well as Tracy and I are planning to meet tomorrow anyway, just to talk about some basic operations and see, you know, whether we'll even accommodate them at this moment. And we can put it on the agenda and come back with a little report on all three conditions, if you wish.
Do we have any pickup trucks being traded in this year or sold on cargo? It still does, it is in a lot better shape than that one, or not?
Chief?
Not out of your department. Everything wore out, I guess. The same thing.
Does the police department have any vehicles, pickup trucks?
We will be swapping out a pickup truck, but it's got like 219,000 miles on it. It's just real high mileage.
That's the one that Mr. Shockey drives. Now that thing, I wouldn't put that, I don't think that would ever,
We have a van that the sort team was using, but I'm not sure if we're gonna keep it or if we're gonna put it for the auction or if another department can use it.
It kind of sounds like it,
Not sure what kind of shape it's in.
it kind of sounds like if they continue to do the pickup, and we don't have to do it ourselves, down the patrol side of it, if it ends up that way, it's beginning to sound like to me, we'd probably have to come up with a truck. That's just what it sounds like.
But that would be a
Somebody's
partnership
gonna
with
have
the
to.
county as well.
Well, who knows? I hope so.
But the one we're discussing is the one that's downstairs. I mean, that's where I think we were wanting to see if we can move forward to let them use that one until we get all this hashed out.
So this is the van downstairs that,
City administrator, man.
okay,
It's just sitting.
But I think what they're really saying is that a van is not a very good vehicle to do what they've got to do.
No, she's saying it is.
Oh, it is?
That's what she's saying. They need a vehicle
Oh,
to pick up
okay.
animals.
All right.
Because they've been using their regular
That's
vehicle.
what I'm saying. That's
All
what
right.
they're needing a vehicle like now,
Yeah.
and that's what it's just sitting down there. And I don't think their intention is to keep it if they were to lose the bid.
Well, yeah, if it'll work, I mean, it's just sitting there doing nothing. I mean, I don't see a problem with that. Say the school system uses it every now and then, well, that belongs to the city. Van belongs to the city. So,
Allow us to do a few little things.
Okay.
Because one of the things I want to talk to legal about, we had one little condition about insurance and us owning. I need to make sure all of this stuff is appropriate. I can come back and report during board meeting, but I didn't want to, that's the biggest thing is making sure that under our insurance or how that would have to work out.
I think we're gonna need to talk to the insurance company to see, we're just kind of loaning them the van.
Well, I think they were going to take the insurance over from.
I don't know if.
they can't unless they own it.
No, I'm saying we would donate it to them, but they would donate it back to us. That's not.
Oh, yeah, I don't
We're
know.
so close to the bid process too. I mean, I really don't see you know what I'm saying? We're right there.
Yeah, I'd rather wait and see where we end up with the bid.
I think something's probably like Vice Mayor says, probably gonna have to be done one way or another, because I'd like to see where we come out. And we could, if you could look at that truck to see what you think, if we could Band-Aid it, just to get us to the one that Miss Cindy's in now. I know that you said you looked at the.
We've had it there for a week or so, here, almost a month ago. Like I said, it may run 10 minutes and it may 10 years. It's rats is eating on it. They patched up, got emergency stuff, working seatbelts.
So everything is working as far as it coming out of your department, but there's no guarantees, like any vehicle, there's no guarantees.
Well, could we put a new engine in it with new wiring harnesses and all that other stuff and make it like brand?
Wire and harness from Sean's back. They got the headliner, each wire harness, headliner.
Because we got into this situation with loaning this van to the Chamber of Commerce for Hamburger Day on the Hill, if I'm correct.
School board too, yes.
School Board 2, you can't loan the vehicle when it's titled to the city because you can't loan your insurance. Anybody could not get insurance on the vehicle until the title is changed in their name. That's my understanding, but we would definitely need to verify that. But I think that's what you had said before, right?
Yeah, and I don't know whether the county would come up with a solution, but Phil Newman did say that he would see whether they could do something in the attempt. So I'm gonna see what I can contact him back today.
Maybe they can step up and help too.
Yeah, because he said they needed to do some more
Yeah.
than what they're doing.
Anything else on that issue?
And again, I do plan to have a report with the new director from after tomorrow anyway.
Okay, and anything else on your report that you would like to speak?
I'd like to back up just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize for not mentioning this a few minutes ago. I want to address Mr. Owens there on this grant for the traffic signalization. We need to look very carefully if any of that allows for time signaling, because we did that study about 5-8 years ago, and because of recommendations that the state allowed, the traffic signals were held up longer and the public went ballistic.
Okay.
So keep that in mind.
I will.
Look at that, and
Oh, yeah.
we ended up going back, changing it back to what it was originally. It had a big fiasco.
Good information, thank you.
Yeah, that was a difficult situation.
Well, we wasted money.
$80,000.
$80,000
Yeah.
was spent just to put it back up.
$80,000. That kind of came through administration. Kevin wasn't here then, but that came through administration.
Didn't like waiting 2
Yeah.
or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I understand.
I'm glad you remembered that, brought
Yeah,
that
I
up.
am too.
Okay, anything else, Kevin?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. On other business, we have the Industrial Development, or Industrial Board Oversight Committee. They have an appointment for the city appointee. It's Dale Pierce. This will be coming before the board meeting for a vote. Dale Pierce, his term will expire July the 1st, 2029. And then also on the county side, the county appointee will be Mike Lane, and that term is to expire also July the 1st, 2029. So that'll move on. And I guess the last thing, I just have to say that we are, Kevin and myself and Eddie are going to the rural development meeting here at 10:30, so hopefully we'll get some information out of that report. In the meeting, they always have good information for us. So unless there's anything else, this meeting will be adjourned. Thank you.